Hey, gals and guys, this is Michael Ferrari of Cinema de Meep. Welcome to, what are we, episode 58 of the bonus Patreon episodes of the Retro Movie Lab podcast. Hey, Ara, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey, Meep, thanks for having me back, buddy.
Thank you, as always, for joining me. Last month, we we went to sleepaway camp. We got all our camp business done, and we decided that we can't let the party end. We need to have a slumber party this time.
That's right.
and
That's
dis-
right.
and discuss, of course, the Slumber Party Massacre movies.
Yes.
A trilogy, if you will, three films, and then there'll be some discussion of the remake from 2001, fairly recent remake. But we'll focus on, of course, the three retro films from the 80s and to the, I guess the third one was the 1990.
Right.
But that's how we roll. We try to focus on the classics in this case. You can
That's
say that you can call them classics now, right? 19, the first one is from 82. It's 40 years old, 41
Yeah.
years old. So I don't think anyone would have thought of these films as classics when they came out. Roger Corman cheap movies, but they are.
Yeah, it's funny how that works. It's funny how that works. But I'm excited to invite your listeners over for this end of summer sleepover, and I think it's going to be a really fun topic to get into. And I should mention actually that this was suggested by one of your listeners, Leon Saul, originally. Kind of dropped the hint that he would love to hear a Slumber Party Massacre episode. So
That's right.
uh,
Thank you, Leon. Thank you,
yeah,
listeners,
I'm
for
excited to get to this
yeah.
one, and it's cool that we can source our people.
That's right. I was going. I was like, should I wear pajamas? Should I wear like a nightie?
Oh
um,
yeah, a
but
skimpy nightie. I
I
think that
didn't
would
do
have got the
that.
YouTube views.
I am wearing a t-shirt that I usually wear to bed. No.
Same.
I'm still on vacation. I'm technically in between two vacations right now. I'm starting up the second leg of our vacation tomorrow. So I'm trying to wear like a vacation kind of hat. So I'm trying to feel a little bit like, yeah, it's still August, still fucking hot. And
Oh yeah.
I'm just gonna try to enjoy the rest of it with a big cold drink. And then of course, school coming up for us. I know school started for you guys there, and
Yeah,
it's
kids
a
are back
lot.
to school.
You got a lot
Uh-huh.
going on, I know, over
That's right.
there.
Yeah,
You're
this is probably going to be the last time I get to record from this house in this den. So I'm looking forward to making this one special because we are going to be moving soon. So that's another adventure to look forward to.
So next time you see Aro, he'll be in his own video store den. We'll see.
That's right. That's right. I'll try to get a little bit closer to the wall, like your spot, man. I like
Oh
that.
yeah, it's only because this room isn't very big, so it looks probably better if I do it this way.
No, it looks awesome. Yeah.
All right,
Uh,
guys. There's a lot to talk about. We have a lot of recently seen.
mhm.
Uh, Before we do that, though, there was a topic we wanted to talk about. Ara, you mentioned a specific person that you wanted we should talk about to pay a little bit of a tribute in our own way. Someone who recently passed, someone who's well loved on this podcast as a filmmaker. Um, Tell us who. Or,
Right. So, of course, William Friedkin passed away recently, and it did, as we were getting closer to recording, it did kind of make me think of that beautiful episode you did many years ago for Wes Craven. And while we're not going to do like quite as in-depth a tribute to him as we should probably, I did want to just say a few things about William Friedkin because
sure.
he is a great director, or was a great director, I should say, and had some movies that I really loved. Uh, but I'm actually not going to be talking about his movies as much per se. I just wanted to mention a few kind of crazy stories I heard over the
Sure.
years, and I made a note of them. I I'm in my mind, these are all true, and no one can convince me otherwise. But I'll admit I didn't do a lot of research. This is just stuff I kind of picked up over the years and tried to write down from memory.
Sure.
So I believe here's the first one. I believe he was having trouble getting permission to film a certain car chase scene in the French Connection, and the city officials were just giving him a hard time. They were saying, I believe it might have involved like a train or something like that, and they were like, you know what, like this has never happened before, and we're not going to let you simulate it. Sorry, that's going to be basically like impossible for you to get this done. And he said, well, what do you mean, like basically? And it's like high-ranking city official basically told him that he could give him $40,000 and a ticket to Jamaica, and he'll let him do the film the scene. So he did, and that guy just, I guess, left his job, and William Friedkin was able to do the scene he wanted to, and this guy just disappeared to Jamaica for the
Oh
rest of his
wow. I
life.
didn't that's awesome.
Yeah, this is just these are just stories that are legend in my mind, and I love that one. Another one I heard was that he hired a former arsonist who specialized in insurance fraud to assist him with like a demolition scene in Sorcerer.
Hmm.
I think it was like a log they had to blow up or something. And from what I recall, like, and I don't know if this is being embellished or if I'm remembering wrong, but like it was like the kind of thing where he called up and the guy's wife answered, and she was like, "Oh, he doesn't do that anymore," like all defensive. And he's like, "No, no, like I need him to do it. Like I'm gonna hire him for a job, a legitimate job." So I love that he kind of went there, like
Hmm.
because mentally, I don't think a lot of people would think to do that.
Yeah.
It's very creative. And the last one, which is probably my favorite thing, I just wanted to mention quickly, is In to Live and Die in LA, which is probably my favorite film of his, if I'm honest, which is probably, not the most popular opinion with so many classics, but it's just a movie I love. I heard that he hired an actual counterfeiter to assist them in, making the movie and making it more realistic, and that person was involved in what we saw on screen when they would be showing like Willem Dafoe and all these great counterfeiting
Hmm.
details that we got to see in
Yeah,
the
that
film.
scene is like a how-to.
Exactly. And from what I understand, like he was left with like all this money that was like indistinguishable from like real money. So like years and years later, like maybe when like the statute of limitations had like ran out, he just like admitted that he spent like a bunch of
Yeah.
it,
He
which I just love.
mentioned it on, I think it was Joe Dante's podcast,
Oh, that
uh,
might be where I heard it
where he
originally,
said he admitted that that's what he did.
which I love. Yeah, I just think that's awesome. And I think there was something going on during filming even where like someone would like go down to like the corner market and try to spend something, like just one of the crew or something, and it like was becoming an issue to where I want to say like the authorities wanted to call him in at one point, and he was like, "Well, do you have like a warrant?" And they were like, "No," and he's like, "Well, like
Hmm.
F you then, for lack of a
Yeah.
better."
Yeah, he was like, yeah, he would call bluffs all the time. That's the kind of
Just
filmmaker he was.
awesome,
Like,
man.
obviously, like, yeah, he was controversial at times. He would say things. He would like even make
Like,
remarks about his own movies, which were like, kind of controversial opinions. Like some of the
sure.
movies like that were panned. Like, oh, this is my favorite of my movies. Like when like Jade was getting torn apart, but he's like, this is one of my best movies,
Which
and
I love that movie too. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's really like, and I have to agree with it. I really enjoy that movie. I know some people hate it, and they continue to this day, but I'm not one of those people. I really enjoy it. I enjoyed 90s thrillers, and I enjoyed what he did with that film a lot. And I
Yeah,
like
like
that
The
it's
Guardian, same
and The
thing,
Guardian's another movie. Like,
Yeah.
people had expectations, of course, him returning to horror after quite a few years after The Exorcist, and uh,
Hmm.
but he went to a little more personal place with it because he had bad experiences with babysitters, and then he kind of, and then the movie just kind of goes crazy. It goes kind of haywire towards the third act. That's what I enjoy about it, because it goes.
Oh yeah.
He doesn't. Yeah, it's not. it's not very typical of a 90s yuppie thriller. It goes to some crazy
Yeah,
places and
it's kind of like a From Hell movie, but like a supernatural From Hell
Mhm.
movie, with like a killer tree, which we don't see very often.
Right.
I don't know. I just, I guess my whole point I was trying to make was just like he was like a special guy, like a real character, and he's missed.
Sure.
And we need more William Frank Friedkins in Hollywood,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
desperately.
how many modern directors who make movies about like say subcultures, like he did with Cruising, would actually go to gay leather
Right.
bars dressed in a jock, just to because he wanted to get them on his side, right? So
Which is awesome.
he wanted to show
Yeah.
them that he wasn't like a Hollywood guy just like trying to exploit the scene. He was like trying to make a real story set in the backdrop of that world. And I just think that's really cool. That's what he did. And with all of his movies, like we can go from Cruising, we go to Live and Die in LA, Sorcerer, whatever. Like he would create these worlds and try to make them real, and then but also hyper stylized, and
Yeah.
like they're not just
Yeah.
one thing, they're multiple things. And of course the music in all those movies are great and perfect for
Oh yeah.
the
No, the music
films.
is huge for sure.
Like yeah, he was really good at that. Like he had a score, he did an orchestral score for The Exorcist, and he threw it out and he's like, no, I want, he picked up this like piece of music that was pre-existing, Tubular Bells. And if you listen to the whole thing of Tubular Bells, it's not all like that piece that they use in The Exorcist. It's like a lot of, it's a lot, it's something else too.
Right.
And he just like,
But he
it
caught what
sounds
the
good. It works for
yeah.
my movie, so I'm going to use it. And I just,
Right.
you hear those stories of how he just kind of works. It's just like he doesn't commit to us one way of doing things. He does it different every way he can to get his vision across. And that sometimes that vision changes while making the movie, which is cool too.
Yeah, and I know this is like a funny thing to say on like a Slumber Party Massacre episode, but I think like to most people out there, William Friedkin is like the director of The Exorcist. Maybe they'll say French Connection, but he's just so much more than that. And I do think that your listeners who are listening to this episode, even though it's Slumber Party Massacre, are like sophisticated enough to really appreciate him for more than that. So I just wanted to share my love for the guy and his work. And like you said, you mentioned some movies that were panned and still not necessarily held in high regard that I think are a lot of fun that he contributed later on. And I don't know. I just think the guy should be celebrated for sure. And I love all those stories about him doing crazy stuff that you just wouldn't expect from a big name Hollywood director.
Oh, for
I can't
sure.
imagine the stories like that are going to come out about like Steven Spielberg one day or something like that. So I just love it.
Definitely
Yeah.
not. But no,
Yeah.
that's why there was only one William Friedkin. And
Yep.
we salute you wherever you are.
Yes. Yes.
Um,
I'll drink my kombucha since I don't have any booze on me.
that works too. All right. So recently seen, do you have anything you want to just like throw out there?
Yeah, I've only got a couple that I made note of for some reason. I
Mhm.
feel like I probably forgot a few. But I did see the most recent Mission Impossible movie in theaters,
Oh,
uh,
nice.
Dead Reckoning Part One.
Hmm.
I saw it with a cousin actually, just for fun. And I think I might have missed the last one or two of these. I'm trying to remember. But in general, I'm a fan. Maybe like to varying degrees. And this one, I felt like I don't know. I had mixed feelings about it. I felt
Hmm.
like I was expecting more because I've heard so much about how good these movies are lately. So maybe I was expecting a little more.
Hmm.
Maybe I thought some parts were like unintentionally really funny when they weren't meant to be. But I had a good time overall, and I do like seeing like a spy thriller, big budget spy thriller on the big screen, which was
Hmm.
cool. So I'll probably be back for the next one. I'll probably try to figure out which ones I haven't seen and get caught up. I remember really liking the original and part three from memory. And I think part three, I really liked Philip Seymour Hoffman, from what I
Right.
remember,
He was a good
more
villain.
than any.
I'm not crazy about that movie, but because I think it felt like, I don't know, because J.J. Abrams was still finding his footing as a director. I don't know, it
Yeah,
felt a little bit like kind of standard spy stuff, but I like Philip Seymour Hoffman
I
as the villain.
yeah,
That's what made it made it stand out more to me. But
I
the
I just remember liking him a lot and
mhm,
thinking that some of the ones I saw after that, I couldn't even remember who the villains were. So
sure, yeah.
maybe that was one of the things that stood out for me.
Mhm. I would say the one previous to this Mission Impossible Fallout, that's definitely one of the best ones.
That's the
Like
one I need to see.
that was really
With
strong.
Henry Cavill is in that one, I believe, right?
Yes, and he's a really good like villain henchman type character because
Okay.
there's like a main villain who's kind of like more of a mastermind, and then there's like he has like a henchman.
Oh, that'll be
Cavill
cool.
kind of, well, I don't want to give away stuff, but
No, no, it's all
it's been
right.
out for
I want to
years.
see it. It's kind of infamous now because that's the movie why he had a mustache that they had to CGI out of all those Justice League
That's
reshoots way
that's
back in
right.
like 2017 or something. So
That's right.
2016, yeah. So I don't know. Just for that, it'd be worth it for me to see because I'll just remember how terrible that looked when they CGI'd his upper lip.
It's worth it.
Uh,
He's good at that one.
I
He
like
wears
him a
the
lot. I
mustache
actually
well.
liked him a lot in what was that spy movie he did? Gosh, I can't remember now. But yeah, he's a good actor. Hopefully he gets some more shots. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I did enjoy that. And then you mentioned J.J. Abrams right now. That reminded me I did do a family movie kind of day. I guess it was at
Mhm.
night where we watched Super 8.
Hmm.
And I hadn't seen that for a while, and I really enjoyed it. My daughter was into it too. I think some parts might have been a little bit scary for my little guy.
Yeah.
And my wife was starting to get mad at me, saying it wasn't necessarily appropriate. But I always tell her, like, hey, look at what we grew up watching. So
Yeah, we're okay.
my,
We're okay.
my
We're watching
favorite
Slumber
part of
Party Massacre.
exactly. My favorite part of that movie is still the end credits, though, where they show the zombie movie that the kids made,
Oh yeah, that's right.
uh, which is just like a minute or whatever, but it's great.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's fun. It's a good emblem like tribute.
Hmm.
I like that one. I saw a few other things I'll mention quickly. I watched this fairly recent horror comedy called Werewolves Within on Hulu.
Hmm.
I thought it was okay. It was like not a bad time waster. I also saw this movie from 2011 called Asylum Blackout. Have you heard of that one?
No, not at all.
It's basically about this group of cooks in the 1980s working at a mental asylum, and there's
Hmm.
a blackout, and basically all the patients get loose, and it gets pretty intense. I
Oh,
kind of
oh.
just put it on to have in the background,
Hmm.
but it really pulled me in. It was like pretty gripping, I'll say. So yeah, that was just kind of a random one. I think it was like on Tubi or something, and it was like kind of gory, but not like. There's like maybe only like one or two scenes that were like a little bit off-putting. Other than that, it was just a lot of good tension. So yeah,
Sounds
that was
good.
yeah,
It
it was a
sounds
good
like
premise.
it sounds like that Jack Shoulder movie, right? Where there's a blackout and the mental patient escape, Afraid of the Dark.
Oh yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's gosh, what's that other one? There was a movie too where there was a blackout in New York. I remember once, and these like guys escaped and took over like a high rise or something.
Oh
I'm
yeah, that's
blanking.
right.
I think that might have even been called blackout. I don't know.
Right.
I
It was a
shouldn't get off
blackout movie.
topic too much because I can't remember. My memory sucks clearly these days. So let me just see a few more things I think I made note of here. Oh, speaking of movies I saw with my kids, we did see the new Ninja Turtles movie in
Mm.
theaters, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, which I saw with my daughter and my niece and my nephew and my brother, and we had fun. I
Hmm.
think it was okay for like the new generation, to get them into Ninja Turtles, which was huge when I was a kid. Obviously, I had so many of those toys, and I was obsessed with the 1990 movie actually. But I thought it was okay. I loved the style. But
Yeah.
for a kids movie, it was a good time. Like, I probably had more fun with this than like Mario, for example. Which
Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up loving Mario too.
It
But
was much better than the Mario movie.
yeah, exactly. Like for a kids movie, you can do a lot worse these days. And gosh, let me see. I think I got just one or two more I wanted to mention. Oh, I rewatched The Howling 5.
Okay.
And I really like this one. I don't know
Really?
what it
I've
is.
never seen it.
It's like set in like a castle in like Hungary or something. It's super low budget. What year was that? It was like 1989. But it kind of plays like a slasher or like a Agatha Christie thing, where you just got like this group of people in the castle, and they kind of unwisely spread out to search for certain people or whatever at certain points and get kind of picked off, and you got to figure out who the werewolf is. And I don't know. I like it. I think I probably watched that over like 3 days because I kept watching it really late at night and falling asleep. But it's still a recommendation for me, and I'm not like a fan of the series overall. I think the first one's great,
Hmm.
but most of the sequels I can take them or leave them. I think I rewatched part 3 not that long ago and just was not getting into it, but this was a good one for sure. I enjoy it. If you have low expectations and like stuff like Slumber Party Massacre 2 and 3, you might like it. um, I saw almost done. I saw The Last Voyage of the Demeter in like an empty theater,
Oh wow.
which was sad because it's a fairly big budget horror movie and you want to see it do well.
Mhm.
But it kind of added to my experience and the atmosphere. I really enjoyed. I was just sitting right there in the middle of the theater by myself, with Dracula. And did you see that one? I don't want to spoil
No,
anything.
we were thinking about going to see it, but we didn't get around to it.
Sure. No, it'll probably be
It disappeared
streaming
pretty
soon.
quickly from our local
Yeah.
theaters.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. But I enjoyed it. It could have been much better. I was kind of thinking, yeah, with such a great concept
Hmm.
and with like how awesome they made Dracula look in this,
Sure.
I just kind of kept thinking like, oh, if they just tweaked a few things with the script, or if this was like a movie they made back in the 80s or something with, I don't know. I was just thinking of like, directors like John Carpenter or whatever, like what they could have done with this. And it was just like, I kept thinking of what it wasn't, which is
Hmm.
kind of like sad. I shouldn't do that. But I just kept thinking of how great it could have been. But I still enjoyed it. I still
Sure.
thought it was a good one. And maybe it'll, grow on me even more in the years to come. But there were
Hmm.
a few things I wish they'd done differently. But I'd recommend it still.
Cool.
The last one I saw, which I wouldn't expect to ever even mention, because I thought it was just going to be like homework, because my buddy really wanted to see it, and he's a highbrow cinephile,
Hmm.
and that was Oppenheimer, uh,
Okay.
which I just saw last night at the Grauman's Chinese
Oh
theater here
wow.
in
So
Hollywood.
on a real big screen.
Real, yeah, awesome old fashioned movie house. And we saw it, and I think the reason we saw it there and it took us so long to see it was because he really wanted to see it in the IMAX, the 70 millimeter.
Hmm.
Um, so we did, and honestly, like I was kind of expecting to be bored. I'm not a huge Christopher Nolan fan. I like appreciate him, like I respect him. I'm glad he's one of the directors that kind of gets to make the movies he wants to, even
Hmm.
if they're not always my thing.
Sure.
But this one, I was really surprised. I was like into it from beginning to end, and it just the cast kept surprising me too. I was like, oh no way, I didn't know so and so's in this,
Right.
because I guess I didn't. I wasn't like really like it wasn't a movie I was really excited about or anything. So I don't think I really did any homework. Just kind of went into it blind, thinking like I'm taking one for my buddy, and I was really into it. I thought it was really good. So I don't know. Did you have a chance
Oh,
to catch that
I didn't
one?
go see it, but Joyce, my wife, took my son to go see it because
Oh,
he's really into
interesting. That's
science.
right.
And
Did
even
Ben
though it's
like it?
rated R and inappropriate, but I felt like he's mature enough to understand that.
Yeah.
And yeah, they really liked it. They said it was pretty exciting. It's it's filmed kind of I want to say frenetically, but if I heard it was kind of filmed, it gave it a more immediate feel to it than a usual, like, say, biopic. It's not like by the
Yeah,
numbers.
it was smart to not like be like chronological like the whole way through. Like
Mhm.
it jumped around a little bit and it did a few different things stylistically. And one thing that I thought it did really well that I wonder if that would translate to like watching it at home was like sound design.
Right.
Like it did a lot of like things like that like really caught my ears, I guess, for
Yeah.
lack of a better
Yeah.
term. Just like whether it was like him like hearing like a stomping sound of a crowd or whatever at certain points of the movie just really pulled me in. And I don't know, I didn't expect to like it. Like I'm telling you, I just thought I was gonna be bored, but whatever. But it's not a Ara movie, I'll say. But I was really into it, so I want to give it some love for sure.
Now, hopefully, Slumber Party Massacre gets a 70 millimeter release, IMAX release. I can only
Yeah,
hope. I can only hope.
yeah, sign me up for that for sure.
I recently seen. I watched just today Meg 2. I didn't like Meg 1. I found it um kind of boring. I don't know. I just couldn't connect to it. And the second one ups the ante. There's a lot more creatures in it.
Mhm.
A lot more stuff happens. Like it's very plot and dialogue heavy right from the beginning, and I totally lost. It totally lost me from the beginning.
Uh,
I
is
was
it
not.
PG-13? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, yeah, it is. We watched it, me, my wife, and my son today, and they enjoyed it more than I did. I kind of checked out pretty early. I just felt like there's too much going on too quickly. I couldn't get
Yeah,
into the characters because things happen too fast. It's like a long movie too, but it's jam packed with stuff. And like I said,
sure.
there's a lot of creatures, a lot of not just like a megalodon, there's multiples, there's like giant octopus, there's like all the stuff. I'm like,
That
okay,
sounds cool.
if you're into that kind of thing, it's great. I guess I wasn't vibing with that movie, so
No,
not for me. I just like couldn't get into the characters at all in the story.
you know,
Um,
I remember. Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say
yeah,
quickly. I do remember not really caring for the first one, but I did read the book that it was based on because
yeah,
my brother is a really big fan of that series.
hmm,
There's like a whole series of books,
yep,
and I remember it was really good and like completely different than what they did with the movie.
yeah.
So I don't know.
That's
I kind of want to see the second one, I guess, when it gets out to streaming, but
yeah.
after seeing that first movie, like I just, it's like no expectations
Yeah, that's what
at all.
people fans of the book. It's like they're nothing like the books, and
No,
it's kind of
it's like not even close. Yeah,
like. Looking at this very long list, I'll try to gloss over things.
go for it.
Blue Beetle. We watched that as a family last weekend, I want to say, and you know me, I'm not a superhero guy. I'm not into
Mhm.
DC, not into Marvel. They're the same thing to me. I don't know the difference. Um, I know some of the characters. That's about it. So I kind of take these movies at face value. Do they entertain me? Are they funny? Do I care about the characters? Am I connecting with it emotionally and that sort of thing? Is it visually interesting or just busy? Right.
Mhm.
Most of the Marvel movies to me or DC movies are just busy, jammed with things like the Meg 2. Um, Lots of like comedy that I don't know, I don't really understand or care about. So I'm just not into that stuff. But I watched Blue Beetle with my son and my wife and my daughter. We all enjoyed it.
Cool.
It's funny. It's emotional. It has good actors in it doing a pretty good job, as Susan Sarandon is the villain.
Right.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's not like a movie I'm gonna like sing the praises of from the hilltops, because it's not my kind of movie, but for this kind of movie, I think it's probably the best I've seen so far from this, like, those past, I don't know, 10 years of like superhero kind of movies.
Oh,
uh,
interesting.
so I enjoyed it, and I like that it was about this family, and just like, and they're kind of fun, or they're weird, and yeah, I really like where I went with it. DC movies like Shazam and all these other things that have been coming out recently, I don't know, I just don't kind of care about the people, so I just kind of usually check out, but I cared about the characters, and that's what matters most to me in these kinds of movies. Like, I need to care
Nice.
about them
Yeah.
to be able to move forward with all those special effects and all that other stuff. This
Very
one
cool.
has a good amount um, of character stuff to keep me interested. So
If you liked it, then that's a sign to me because I'm the comic nerd over here. So I
yeah,
really have to see that
no
for sure.
offense to any comic nerds, because I get it, and I'm sure there are a lot of good Marvel and DC movies that capture the comic books well. I'm just a fan of Blade, so that's it.
No, no, you're good.
Night of the Comet. We watched that as a family movie night, and
Oh, awesome.
that went over really well. They both loved it. Um, it's got everything that they wanted in a movie. It's got comedy. It's got action. It's got everything. Night of the Comet. You guys love
It's
Night of the
awesome.
Comet. It's the best. The kids loved it. They connected with it. They liked the characters a lot. They liked that it was about strong women.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it worked really well. And it's like, it's horror light, so it's good for like trying to get your kids into horror. So
It's gateway. Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's definitely a gateway. And my son likes science, so there's a little bit of that. And it's got montages, so if you like fun stuff like that, so perfect.
Beautiful.
16 Candles we did as a family movie night as well. Doesn't age as well as, say, Night of the Comet. They both came out the same year. It's so funny, like, putting those movies together. Like, we did one night 16 Candles, next night Night of the Comet. It's funny how much the movie that didn't like it's not held up as like the classic of cinema, the classic of teen films. Night of the Comet holds up so much better than 16 Candles. I
Interesting.
will I will still defend 16 Candles. I know a lot of people have problems with some of the stuff back then that was going on in films, like the care, how they treated certain characters, different ethnicities, and I still think uh, the movie is very funny. Long Duck Dong is a very funny character. The actor who plays him defends his role in that movie. Um, Asian actors weren't getting a lot of opportunities, and he was happy to get the job. I like that he's part of an interracial relationship that no one ever talks about. So the movie has pluses. Where it goes negative, that movie for me, is the treatment of Jake, with, there's like this kind of rapey undertones later in the movie, which don't really fly very well, and my kids picked up on it and didn't like it.
Oh,
And
gosh. Interesting.
and how they implied, like, characters who were getting drunk or on drugs and like sleeping with each other, and like, yeah, it was a little too like as a joke instead of like a serious matter, or handled in a
Jeez.
more delicate way. John Hughes
Okay.
wasn't really doing that. It was his first film. I give him a pass. Some of it doesn't hold up in 2023, but I still think the movie's pretty funny. I think it's memorable. And I like Molly Ringwald in it, even though she's weirdly missing in a chunk of the movie. Having seen it
Oh,
now,
really?
oh yeah, she's like, for a lot of the movie, she's like on the couch, and while everyone else is having fun in the
Interesting.
movie. So it's really an ensemble movie more than a Molly Ringwald movie, and
I
I kind
didn't
of
know that. I
into that this time.
just
It was like,
figured it. She
no,
was like in every scene.
no,
Yeah.
it's like other people for a big chunk of the movie. I was like, oh wow, I didn't really. It wasn't until this viewing until I really got that, and I've seen this movie quite a few times over the years. But I still
I
am a
don't.
fan of 16 Candles, but it's not. It's definitely not his best film, but it was his first movie
Was it his first? Okay, yeah.
as a
Honestly,
director. Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever seen it. I feel like I've seen parts of it at least. Like I kind
Mhm.
of remember but yeah, the one of his that I saw a lot growing up was The Breakfast Club, of
Mhm.
course. But yeah, like 16 Candles, and I know there's some other ones, Pretty in Pink, I want to say, and
Mhm.
a few more that come to. Maybe I saw them when I was, young, but I just don't remember them. Which is weird because I got really into a lot of his '90s movies, which a lot
Mhm.
of people don't like. So I
Right.
don't know. Yeah, go figure. To each their own, I guess. But that's interesting to hear about 16 Candles.
We did Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Mutant Mayhem, like you mentioned it before. European Vacation, we watched that as a family. Maybe not
Oh, nice.
appropriate. Speaking of John Hughes, he wrote that one. But it's fun. We like the vacation movies. Batman and Robin. Speaking of
Oh,
Marvel
interesting.
DC movies, we went with Batman and Robin. My kids are really into Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm like, okay, let's see how they'll react to him as the villain in a movie because he never plays the villain, right?
Yeah.
This is like one of the very few times he did that. Was it the only time? I don't know. Like in a full big on movie, yeah. It was fun. I mean, this is telling of of me as a superhero person or not being a superhero person. I actually think Batman and Robin might be my favorite of those Batman movies.
Oh man,
It is,
that's gonna start a whole other podcast right
yeah.
now.
So you guys are probably shutting off the podcast if you haven't already, but it's really silly, it's really campy.
Yeah,
Obviously
Schumacher was definitely going for the Adam West Batman
they're
vibes.
going for, yeah,
Mm.
he's shooting for the stars. He had problems while making the movie with the studio. But I don't know. I really feel like it's really vibrant and silly and yeah, never. I don't think it ever takes itself too seriously. Uma Thurman is amazing in this movie. She's like total camp performance. She's like going off and having a ball clearly, and I'm living for whatever she's doing in this movie. I think she's amazing. Arnold Schwarzenegger is fun. He has really bad one-liners. It was fun to like, there are many quips from him in this movie, and they're just not very well written, and they're really obvious and stupid. But it was fun watching them with the kids and kind of making fun of that.
Sure.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I just really, I mean, it didn't matter. Like Batman, George Clooney as Batman. I don't care. I have no opinion on the Batmans. Like he was barely a character.
Yeah.
And he barely acts in the movie. He's just George Clooney.
Uh-huh.
So I have no real opinion on that. But yeah, the villains kind of steal the show, and the vibrancy of the movie is fun. Alicia Silverstone is fun, and so yeah, I liked it for that. Um, The Fugitive, we watched that my son watched that with us, and that was we watched it for the 30th anniversary. That holds up really well done movie. Working Girl, I watched that. That was great, of course. A movie called Apology, a 1986 HBO movie that I have on a VHS. I watched. I haven't seen it since it aired back in the 80s, so I barely remembered it. Leslie Ann Warren and Peter Weller. It's
Oh,
like a thriller involving someone calling a phone line and and killing people. It's basically a slasher set in
interesting.
the art world of New York City, and I loved it. I mean,
Wow.
I thought it was a total gem,
That sounds
a
awesome.
movie that like more people should see. I think it needs a Blu-ray release so more people could see it in a cleaned up version. Appreciate it, but I thought it was really good. I was really into it. I really like, of course, Leslie Ann Warren, and I like Peter Weller a lot. So he gave me good
Of course.
leads, give me a story that I'm into. It gave me a phone thriller on top of it all, and a serial killer slasher type doing stuff. Like, yeah, I'm into that. Really
Very
good.
cool. I'd love to see that. Yeah.
Man's Best Friend. I watched all the movies from um the those teen dramas that they put out on Blu-ray. Those were a lot of fun. I watched. Let's see. So there were six of them: Dreams Don't Die, Freedom, Death Bride to Osaka, The Death of Richie, Incident at Crest Ridge, and The Seduction of Gina. Um, Fun City Editions put those out in two different
Oh,
volumes.
very cool.
Primetime Panic, they're called, and all TV movies. And I enjoyed a lot of those. So it was fun doing a marathon of that. Let's see, so many things, so many things. I watched the documentary Hollywood Dreams and Nightmares, the Robert Englund story.
Nice.
That was cool seeing that. Shark exploitation documentary going back to the Meg 2. Maybe I wasn't so into Meg 2 because I'd recently seen that documentary, which has better shark movies in it.
Cool.
Valley Girl, I went to go see that in the theater with Joyce for what was it, a couple weeks ago now. That was great. Went to the Alamo Draft House and saw a screening of that, and of course that's one of our favorite movies that we bonded over. So
I remember.
we love it.
Did I ever tell you? I think I did when we went to the drive-in to see Valley Girl, and it was the remake. We didn't know. Yeah, because we didn't even know there was a remake.
Right.
Otherwise, our guard would have been up.
Oh well, what
I
could you
think I
do?
might have mentioned that
That was
before, but
during the
yeah,
pandemic when you didn't have much of a choice, right? I remember.
yeah, exactly. I ended up not really paying much attention to it, I gotta admit.
Let's see. Yeah. When Freaking died, I watched a few of his movies, and they all held up really well.
Oh, awesome, man.
And then I don't know if I mentioned in the last podcast, Theater Camp, something you want to go see in theaters. That
Sounds
was
familiar. Yeah, I think you did.
an indie movie. It was really funny.
You might have, or maybe you just posted about it, but that sounds really good from what I remember hearing.
Yeah, that was really good. It was like kind of a Christopher Guest like style look at a summer camp for of theater kids in New York State,
Very
and
cool.
yeah, I had a lot of fun with that. It was really funny. All right, that's it. There were a lot of other things, so I'm going to leave them off. We have enough. We have enough for tonight.
No,
Let's
that was
get
good. That's
let's
a
get
good
into
recently
this.
seen.
Let's get into the Slumber Party Massacre movies. I'm gonna play a trailer. So if you're on YouTube watching this, you can see the trailer. Otherwise, you'll be hearing the trailer. But here it is, the first one.
The basketball team is planning a party. A slumber party. The party begins at 8 o'clock.
Love it too. You think I'm getting better?
But be on the lookout for an uninvited guest.
Please, please.
When the pizza arrives, things really start jumping. Some people may have to leave early. But others will hang around and hang around.
Courtney, you're underage. Negative. Come on, let's go.
I'm not gonna eat the dead guy's pizza.
I feel better already. Really, I do.
But for those who stay, there'll be plenty of surprises. And non-stop action. One thing's for sure, no one's getting any sleep the night of the Slumber Party Massacre. Close your eyes for a second and sleep forever.
You bring the pizza, I'll bring the drill. When Trish, Michelle Michaels, decides to invite her high school girls basketball teammates over for a slumber party, she makes three big mistakes. Number one, she snubs the pretty new girl next door, Robin, is it still?
Mm-hmm.
Number two, she forgets about teenage pranksters Jeff and Neil, David Milburn and Joe Johnson. Number three, her biggest mistake, she doesn't know about an escaped mental patient, Michael Viela, who will soon be dropping in on the party with his portable drill. written, directed, and produced by women. Slumber Party Massacre will scare you right down to the core. You'll love it. And that is from the Embassy Home Entertainment VHS.
The lazily written.
Yes,
Oh,
very
let's have a
much so.
checklist. Let's do a checklist here.
When in doubt, make a list. Make a list. So yeah, I don't know. That's not the best VHS blurb we've read, but
But the
it
artwork,
is.
though.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is a
Iconic.
great VHS. Yes, absolutely. Um, so I don't know. The Slumber Party Massacre is probably one of my favorite slashers of all
Oh, cool.
time, and I'm not just speaking in hyperbole here or whatever. It's a really good one. It's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of things to admire about it. In hindsight, I do think one thing that's a little bit misleading about that VHS description is it wasn't all produced by women, of course, but I do like that it was kind of marketed that way.
Yep.
Maybe Roger Corman saw something there. And I do think it is definitely special for having so many women involved creatively and not just in front of the camera. I love the simple setup in this movie with like the ominous like newspaper headline. I feel like a lot of slashers can kind of take note of like how easy it is to kind of get a slasher movie going without wasting too much time.
That's true, yeah.
And I love that this slumber party is, these girls are planning this fun night, and it's supposed to be to recapture these simpler times from their youth, the way they kind of frame it, throughout the beginning of the movie. But in reality, it's like these are, teenagers who are getting mixed up in, with boys and drama, and it doesn't end up being what they wanted it to be anyways. But I like what it represents.
Sure.
And I do think that it's kind of smarter than people give it credit for. Like, there's a lot of little themes here. Like, Trish is clearly like ashamed of her old dolls and stuffed animals. She wants her friends to think she's mature, and
Right.
she's getting rid of all that stuff before they come over for the sleepover. And that's something that I feel like is pretty relatable, probably for all teenagers, not just, teenage girls. I know I regret getting rid of all my G.I. Joes and Ninja Turtles at some point in my life, but I think everyone does it. And then,
I mean, you compare this movie with Barbie because the same there's a theme there too.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet, but
yeah,
that's good to know.
There is a character who gets rid of her toys and her Barbie dolls.
That's cool. I didn't know that. That's good. Maybe they saw this first. But yeah, like, I don't know. There's a lot going on here for like a mindless slasher. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make with this setup. And I love that. I love that these girls have like clearly never played basketball before. And I could be wrong. But that's something I love in these kinds of movies. Like, you've got the team there, you've got this scene, and these girls are just, I don't know, they're struggling to dribble. And I'm not saying I could do better, especially not now, but it's just really funny to watch stuff like that in these old movies. And gosh, I love those first couple of kills, like around the school. I love that they take the time to do that, and they're pretty creepy. Like, especially, gosh, I think that chase with Brink Stevens is like really good.
Yeah,
it's like a short chase, really. I mean, it's not like it's not prom night or something, but it's really good, and it's creepy, and almost feels out of place. Like a lot of this movie, I mean, tonally is darker than you would expect. And I think that that's a credit to the filmmakers because it seems like it was almost written for laughs. And there's a lot of really funny moments still, don't get me wrong, but they played it straight. Like they
Yeah.
almost were like, we mentioned Batman a few minutes ago, which is so funny. I just made this connection, but the Adam West Batman series, he knew it was ridiculous, of course, the script, but they just told him play it like the most serious role like you've ever had. And that was part of the genius of it. And I think they do some of that here, like the girls or the killer, whoever it is, they're playing it straight, and there's some fun to be had in the performances. I'm not saying it's all like that, but I think the movie benefits from not just being like too goofy or over the top, because it works as a slasher. It's not just a slasher comedy, it still works as a slasher, and that's a huge credit to them. They pulled off something that's not easy to pull off there. So yeah, I don't know, I had a few notes here about food and beverages in this movie.
Mhm.
The Kool-Aid looked very sweet, like really, really sweet. Kind of made my teeth hurt just like watching them make it. And I don't know if she needed to add sugar as well.
That's a lot, yeah.
And that pizza looked really greasy, like really, really greasy, to where you could see through the bottom of the box.
Right.
And that those both actually sound really good right now, even with those comments. So everything involving the pizza and that scene is so iconic, of course. It is a little out of place because, like I said, they do play it straight, and that seems more like something you would see in I don't know, like one of the like slasher spoofs of the 80s, or like one of those silly scary movies they did 20 years ago. But it's still really funny, and I really enjoy it. And my favorite part isn't even the part that most people talk about when they actually stop to eat the pizza. My favorite part is it's really like nothing, but I just kind of like this kind of understated stuff. And it's when he knocks on the door and they say, "What's the damage?" And you hear the killer say 6 so far, and it's like done in like such like a creepy way.
Mhm.
But like it just doesn't register with them, and I just love like little touches like that.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know. It's a good one for sure. There's a lot going on here. Like I said, there's a lot of symbolism. There's a lot going on with Russ Thorn, the killer, and his portable power drill.
Mhm.
Um, but at the end, it's just a really fun movie, like really fun. And I think it does pull off that balance that so many horror comedies are missing. And it's it's just like it's kind of like a perfect sleepover movie too. I was thinking when I was watching it this time, like I'm really bummed I never organized that or tried to pull that off before, in my
Mhm.
younger years, because this would have been like the one I should have got every time we went to the video store to pick something, because it's just perfect.
Yeah.
I think it's a real like crowd pleaser, so I don't know. It's the perfect length too. Honestly, that's one thing I wanted to mention. They don't waste any time in this movie, and
No.
it's got a really high body count too. Despite that, so they just cram 70 whatever minutes. I'm blanking, but it's perfect, just slasher from beginning to end. And there's some stuff in there that like kind of make me scratch my head, like the neighbor hunting snails and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But whatever, the movie's so good that I'll forgive it for all that stuff. So uh but I'm rambling at this point. So
No,
what
no,
do you
no.
think about the original Slumber Party Massacre?
I'm trying to remember like my experience seeing it in the theater as a kid, and
Oh wow, you got
I
to
don't
see it in theaters.
remember it very well. Like I know I did see it, but what about the RKO National Twin? But I know it's like that time period where like I was watching a lot of horror movies in the theater, but not all of them stood out to me. Like I think there would have to be certain elements that really connected with me.
Sure.
Like some of these slashers that were like kind of at the time kind of like I guess we call run of the mill. If you look at them in a certain way, didn't always pop out in my head. Like, but if you had like say like a curtains where it was a creepy doll or the ice skating sequence, that freaked me out.
Right.
Even though
Yeah.
the whole movie's not like that, but just that one sequence was enough to like, oh my god, this movie's like melting
That's
my
all you
brain.
need to make like an impression, on a
Melting
kid,
in my
especially.
brain.
Uh-huh.
Children of the Corn was another movie. Like the whole movie is not like the opening sequence where all the kids are killing all the adults, but
That's
that
all
was
you
enough
need.
to
Yeah.
start the movie that way. It freaked me out for the rest of the movie.
Absolutely.
So some of these movies where it's like kind of like more of a straight ahead, like you said, kind of plays it straight kind of slashers didn't always sit with me like I didn't remember them as well. But I did rent it later on. I guess in the late '80s, and um, I know my grandmother was probably more into the Slumber Party Massacre movies than I was as a kid. Um, I don't know why though, but I think something about the setup of the young women and the situation she appealed to her. And so it took me a while to kind of warm up. Maybe I feel like maybe it wasn't until it came out on DVD when I really like started to appreciate it more, and understood like some of the more feminist aspects of the movie. Like I guess I learned maybe back when I had like a Video Hound and all those film books, like looking
Right.
up the director. Oh, it's
Uh-huh.
Amy Holden Jones, and she went on to make a movie that I loved in 1987 called Made to Order. And then she wrote other movies, and she did love letters after this with Jamie Lee Curtis and that connection there.
Oh,
And I
that's
started
right.
to understand, like, put the pieces together of like what the movie was trying to do. I
Uh-huh.
learned that it was written by Rita Mae Brown, like kind of a feminist novelist. Um,
That's right.
but then she wrote it as a parody, a
Uh-huh.
spoof of these kinds of movies. But then the director decided that she wanted to play it more straight. So you're dead on with that. And I don't know, these pieces started to make more sense like watching the movie. Okay, yeah, it's kind of run of the mill on one level, but it has a vibe to it that's very California of the time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
um and I like that about it. The actresses are fun. I like them. I don't know if their characters are totally like memorable. You're not going to remember the girls as much as you would the girls in Halloween, for example.
I agree.
I think they're better written, of course. That's where some of the movie loses me a little bit because I feel like the characters could have been stronger. I like them, but I felt like they needed more of a voice. Some of them, as like a distinctive voice.
Sure.
But I like them though. I like that it was, yeah, again, written directed by women. I think what people don't understand the feminist aspect of this movie is it's not that it was written and directed by women and trying to make a feminist statement. That's not the point. The point
Hmm.
is that women can make these movies just as men would have at the time. That's the
Yeah.
most feminist aspect of the movie, is that she wasn't trying to make a statement movie, maybe what they would do now
Maybe
these
what they
days,
did
and
do
maybe
now.
what they did do. um, she was the feminist aspect of the movie is that she was making a movie as if a guy would have made it then.
You're right.
That's
Yeah.
how she was trying to tackle this. And of
Hmm.
course, she had certain demands by Roger Corman to have a certain amount of nudity in it. But then
Yeah,
a male director would have had the same parameters. So that's the
I'm
idea.
sure.
That's the most feminist aspect of the movie, is that she was making it exactly as a man would have made it. And
Exactly.
I applaud that aspect of the movie. I think it's really well done for that, of what
Hmm.
it was trying to do on a really tiny budget. What was it, like $250,000? So even less than
Unreal.
Halloween
Yeah.
and costs. Yeah, and obviously Roger Corman was famous for his cheaping out on certain aspects, reusing
Yeah.
sets and all that stuff. We'll get to that soon on the next one. But yeah, I mean, it does a really good job at creating this like this fun little slumber party world, and this killer who clearly has some issues that we never really learn about.
And we don't
That's
need
okay.
to. Yeah.
That's okay. It's a 77-minute movie. It moves fast. I like that Speedo was a sponsor of this movie with the shirt. I like the weird sponsorships in the movie are kind of funny when they're there in the background, like
Yeah.
sodas and different things. But
I
it's
always
fun
get
that
a kick out of that
I
stuff.
think it's
Yeah.
fun that Roger Corman got money from that. I like the drill. I like the idea of the drill as a weapon, of course, and of course it's used um in a fun way and certainly symbolic way. And then of course when the killer's dispatched, and how where that plays
Love
out,
that.
it's
Uh-huh.
clear. It's clear without having to be like too over the top.
Yeah.
What
The
they're trying to
message
say
is
with
very
that.
clear. Uh-huh.
I think I like the girl who stabs him and stops, and the other girl gets drilled. It's like they make some dumb choices. It's fun.
Classic,
You doing
slasher.
these kinds of slashers. Um, I like the girl who comes at him with the machete. Like that's really fun. Like the idea of that. Like selling him there's a machete in play. And of course that harkens back to Friday the 13th. I think they were
Exactly.
clearly had other slasher movies in their mind while making this movie.
Yeah.
Which is totally what they were doing in this time period.
Uh-huh. Yeah, this
Yeah.
was like kind of right at the end of that boom, right? If I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, I
it
mean
was kind of like
82, you're at like, what is this, November 12th, 1982, so kind of like towards the end.
yeah,
You would get a few more in 83, but really they started petering out by this point.
hmm
um and but
that
you
kind
know
of
what,
golden era.
it opened at number one. No, I mean, it actually didn't open at number one. It didn't do very well at the box office. Actually, I was looking up the box office information. Sorry. Um, it probably did better in drive-ins on the double bill. The number one movie that opened up the same day and it could not compete was Creep Show.
Oh,
Creep Show
interesting.
opened up on the same day at number one.
I didn't realize that.
I was looking at what else came out. Also new that week, They Call Me Bruce, Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. And then let's see what else was playing at the time. Number 2 was First Blood. Number 3 was E.T. Number 4 was Officer and Gentleman. And number 5 was The Missionary. And then you had National Lampoon's Class Reunion, My Favorite Year, Monsignor, Man from Snowy River, Jekyll and Hyde Together Again, The Sender, Poltergeist, The Concrete Jungle, Rocky 3, Pink Floyd, The Wall, 5 Days, One Summer, Tex, Amityville 2, Road Warrior, The Burning was still playing in theaters, Halloween 3, Conan the Barbarian, Gregory's Girl, Starstruck, Endangered Species, Chili Scene's a Winner, Eating Raoul, The Funeral Home, and The Thing. We're still around by November. There are a lot of comedies coming out at this point. This season of the year, and I think maybe that's probably why it wouldn't. I guess the slasher boom was on its way out. Look at the box office, 3.6 million. Of course, it did a profit. Because it's such a low budget, but also video sales were like huge in this movie. This is one of the big sellers. Embassy Home Videotape did really well, and a lot of
With
people
that
saw
great cover we mentioned, yeah.
a lot of people saw it that way. I think by that point, he saw the writing on the wall. Roger Corman knew that video was like where the way to go, and maybe he
Right.
took the focus on the series with that. After this, but I really like it. I think it's fun. I think the other movie I mentioned, Amy Holden directed Rich Man's Wife with Halle Berry, and she wrote Mystic Pizza, which is great. She wrote Beethoven, which I think John Hughes actually wrote as well, or did a rewrite or something. Indecent Proposal, she wrote that, and The Relic. So she made a few interesting different kinds of movies.
Very cool.
Her career.
Yeah.
She's on the commentary. She's pretty open about her experiences while making it, which is cool.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's a fun track. I think it's a fun movie. So I enjoy it more probably now in my older years. My friend David wanted me to mention that the houses are in Venice on the
Uh-huh.
same street where they filmed Night Visitor from 1989. You can even spot the slumber party house near the end of Night Visitor.
Oh,
A
really?
little bit of
I
trivia
didn't
because
know
he's
that.
into location stuff. So
No, that's really cool.
that's the trivia I have from him.
I like Night Visitor too, actually. That's a small
So you could do
movie.
a Night Visitor, a Slumber Party Massacre, and double feature, guys, if you want.
Very cool. Yeah, but it's very Venice. It's got those vibes for sure.
Totally. All right. That was Slumber Party Massacre. Let's get into the sequel, Slumber Party Massacre 2. Here is the trailer.
Courtney Bates has got some weird friends.
I have got the fastest growing dick I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, look at this thing.
I think your sweetheart has been taking too many diet pills.
Here's a chicken sandwich if you want to go.
She should have listened to her sister.
All the way.
Because when she and her band get ready to party,
Anything you want to. Go time. Oh, that's Slumber Party Weekend.
it's more than just a great time.
No girls really did this stuff.
It's Slumber Party Massacre 2.
Now it's time for the fun part.
He's in this house somewhere.
Well, it's 9 o'clock and they're ready to rock. My motorcycle's out of hock. Jump on back, baby, hold on tight. We're gonna ride this rock into the night.
Valerie.
Don't let go. No, no. Don't let go. Hold on tight. Well, you say why? I say because let's burn.
Slumber Party Massacre 2. If you go, don't go all the way.
God, anybody got any tranks?
Okay, here's the VHS box. The only sane survivor of Slumber Party Massacre, Courtney Crystal Bernard, dreams of the drill murderer returning. She can't shake the horrible feeling that she and her friends will be viciously tormented and brutally butchered. Again and again, the nightmare returns. Dazed, Courtney loses control, and her nightmare crosses into reality. No one believes her until it's too late. The driller killer returns, reincarnated as an evil rocker. He methodically stalks them, then violently gores them to death, one by one. Mixing elements of A Nightmare on Elm Street with Texas Chainsaw Massacre, only the fittest can survive. Slumber Party Massacre 2. Okay, I didn't realize you have to be fit to survive these movies, but okay, I get it.
Uh-huh.
1987, color, approximately 90 minutes, although it feels shorter than 90 minutes, but
Yeah, it does. I'm
Yeah.
surprised to see that.
the VHS box size. So yeah, Slumber Party Massacre 2. This one, I think it had a limited release in October of that year, but it came out on home video. That's how I saw it, because I think there was like a limited, like in a couple of markets, and then that a few days later they put it out on VHS from Embassy. Was it Embassy Home Video? Yes. Concord Pictures by this point. They were New World and now they're Concord Pictures, so there's a
Right.
change here in
Yeah.
companies. I was ready for Slumber Party Massacre 2. I bought renting at the video store, and I definitely noticed that they were trying to capitalize on what was hot at the time. Slasher movies kind of course, saw their way out, and now they were trying to blend in what was popular. Elm Street, supernatural kind of horror, blending that with
Apparently, rockabilly music. With
rockabilly
that,
music, clearly.
apparently.
Throw that into the mix with the same kind of similar plot line to the first movie. Girl bands were kind of popular in the 80s. Throw that in there.
Sure.
Yeah, TNA, we got that back. I don't know. It was like a mix of kind of what you would expect in a 1987 kind of horror slasher, but then with those other elements in it. And I was like, okay, I'm ready for this. And I totally enjoyed it when it came out. Something about it really stuck with me more than the first movie at the time. I don't know why. Maybe because I was so into Nightmare on Elm Street movies at this point of my life in 1987. That was the year Part 3 came out, Dream Warriors. So I was really high on Freddy fever, like everybody else in this country. And getting like another slasher villain. Doing that kind of shtick, I guess. It was fun to see. It's not quite as successful. This killer did not go on to make this particular actor playing this killer didn't go on to make a series of movies like Freddy. Didn't quite have that magnetic charm as Robert Englund does as Freddy. But on the upside, the actors in their roles in this one really kind of stood out more to me. I liked Crystal Bernard as Courtney. I kind of immediately recognized that maybe she had a little bit more of acting chops than some of the others in the first movie or other movies, like kind of like these throwaway sequels. I like that about her. I liked Jennifer Rhodes as the mom. And then you get Julia Cummins and Heidi Kozak. I think they're kind of a good group of girls in this one. I like that, of course, that they're a girl group. That immediately appealed to me, being a fan of girl group music and girl group movies like Satisfaction. And just seeing those kinds of scenes in movies really was big for me in the 80s. And then on top of that, you have like characters like named Officer Kruger and the Cravens and Officer Voorhees. There's little nods to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like Sally Burns, I think was one of the character. So that's fun. It was fun to see that, like kind of paying tribute. The comedy was definitely more apparent in this one than the first one. So maybe they finally got to have that spoof a little bit there. It's pretty silly. When I was watching these movies, my wife would just like, she pops into the room and she's like, what is going on? Who is that guy? Why is he singing that? Why is he... It was like a lot of like, what is going on? It was like a big WTF movie for her.
Yeah, I could see that.
I think that's fun. I'm like, this is the reason why I like this movie so much, is because it's so bizarre. Like the choices, they're so weird, but they kind of work for the framework of this movie, and what was happening again at the time, and then where it goes by the end of the movie. I like movies. It's like watching a Repulsion, like a serious movie like Repulsion, but doing like the teen, silly 80s, almost comedy horror version of it, and which is really funny to me that they were doing that. And
I could see that.
Yeah, I don't know, I really connected to it, and I still connect to it deeply. When I think of like silly horror sequels of the 80s, I always think of Slumber Party Massacre 2, much like I think of like Sleepaway Camp 2 or something. Yeah, which is I always connect these two movies together because they have a tone that's kind of silly, but also somewhat serious at times. I mean, there is a lot of murder and mayhem. Yeah, I don't know. I like it. I like the element, that extra element. That's one that adds to what the first movie had. And I tend to watch it most of these three movies. I go back to it more because of that element. Yeah, I'm curious to what you think, but I don't know. I'm just I'm just kind of a fan of Slumber Massacre 2.
Right.
I don't know if I could defend that being a fan of it, but I am.
No, that's cool. I mean, I feel like in like my inner circle, like yourself included, I feel like this one gets a lot of love, as maybe even like, most people's favorite in the series. And honestly, I've never had that experience with it. Even though, like we said, watching the sleepaway camp episodes, like I'm all for like a wacky sequel. I mean, I was gushing over part two when we were getting into that, but with this one, I guess is a little bit more of a mixed bag for me, and maybe it's just because it was possibly overhyped for me over the years, and I don't remember if I saw this as a kid.
Okay.
Like I vaguely can remember seeing the original, but this one it was more like probably gosh, I couldn't even say, before this viewing if I'd seen it, if I'd just seen clips, because I definitely knew a lot about it, but I just couldn't remember sitting down and watching it before. Which is, shame on me as like a slasher fan, but I don't know, especially as someone who loves the original. I will ask, one thing that just stood out to me right now when you were reading that VHS blurb. Do you think that that's supposed to be the reincarnation of Russ Thorn? Is that what's going on there? Because I didn't get that vibe at all.
I mean, it doesn't. The movie doesn't really explain it.
No,
I
I don't think it ever explains who
that's
the
how they're
killer
trying to
is or
sell
where he
it.
came from. Yeah, I mean, I feel
This
like it's
one?
one of those things where the person who wrote that might have not even seen the movie. Because there are a lot of those where it feels that way,
Right.
When they just were given some points they were told to make or whatever. I don't know. But I don't know. I have like vague memories of this one over the years. There's some very iconic things outside of even the killer, who I think is definitely like a cult figure at this point, more so than the original. I will say, gosh, what's that song called? The Pie in the Sky? I feel like that's something I've heard talked about.
Yeah, the
And
songs
deservedly
the songs, are fun. It's like there was a real band that did the songs called
that's right.
Wednesday Week. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which I think
That's
is fun.
right. That's right. And you know what? I do think that those elements, like the girl band elements and stuff, are a lot of fun. Like, I'm definitely not here to rain on the parade. Like, I do think this is a fun movie. I just think the original is kind of a classic, honestly, and this is like not on that level for me. I think that, like you
a
mentioned,
movie that has that kind of artwork is not a classic.
Well, you know what? These covers are all great as far as I'm concerned. I love that. I love that. These covers are all brilliant. They definitely
They're
sold
not in the
movie.
movie, these actors.
Yes. But yeah, I don't know. You mentioned that you kind of like the recasting. That's like a pet peeve of mine when they recast characters from movies. I don't know why. It's just something that's always bugged me. Recasting, and also a lot of times when they're just kind of killed off, that it'll rub me the wrong way. It depends.
I get that for sure.
Written
Yeah.
out. Sometimes it's done really well. Sometimes it kind of just rubs me the wrong way. It depends. But with this one, I really kind of wish that it wasn't supposed to be, Courtney and Valerie, just because it didn't look or feel like them at all.
No, they felt like totally different characters. Yeah.
No,
like, for
and
a long time, I probably didn't even connect. I knew they say in the movie that she's Courtney and that she survived Russ Thorn, but I'm like, I don't know. It's like it never really wasn't the same. It was never the same Courtney in my head. Like,
no, not at all. And she was a real fun character in the original, even though we didn't talk about it. But I'm glad they kind of didn't try to tie together characters anymore after this one. But it doesn't need it, and the movie was so different.
Right.
Anyways, but Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot going on. This is another movie you can kind of analyze and examine and try to figure out, how much of this was in her head or whatever. But just if you just take it on the surface, which is, my advice to anyone watching slasher movies, is it's pretty enjoyable for sure. There's a lot of fun, weird stuff in it. I know this is the one with the giant pimple, right? Because I remember
Yes.
that was something that was in my memory from when I was a kid. That's something that I do remember.
That's
But I
something.
don't remember if
Yeah.
it's just I saw that clip somewhere or what. But I definitely remembered that. And that's the one thing about this movie that I've always remembered, which is really strange. That's the thing that's stuck in my mind, is this
It's pretty
gross
it's
gag.
pretty surreal, and it's certainly
Yeah,
something that
it's
would be Elm
yeah,
Street kind of thing. Yeah.
it's like something you'd expect from a Garbage Pail Kids movie or something.
Sure.
I don't know. But when I was watching this for the podcast, and I should mention, it does feel like we watched these a while ago, just because we had
Right.
some scheduling issues. I thought I fell asleep, which is something I always do. And I thought I missed the ending, and I was like, okay, I'll rewatch the ending, tomorrow. So I sat down and rewatched the ending, and I was like, no, I didn't fall asleep. I watched this, but it was totally forgettable for me. It just was kind of like a nothing ending. I don't know. So I guess that's my way of saying it just didn't make a huge impression on me. But you know what vibes I was getting, because I don't want it to sound like I didn't like it. I definitely had fun with it. What I was thinking upon, this viewing, was this would have been an amazing music video. I think all of this 90 minutes or whatever, if they just cut it down to an awesome 80s music video, this would have been one of the best videos ever. With that surreal imagery and gags and stuff that were going on, and that weapon, the guitar with the drill, at
Right.
the end. I don't know why I kept thinking about it like that. This would have been amazing.
Maybe it's
But
a good
yeah,
movie to have on at a party in the background,
yeah, exactly, because it has
volume.
that vibe. Yeah. And I know that my brother, for example, is someone who loves this movie a lot, and I think he even picked it as a listener pick for the Hysteria Continues a million years ago, whenever that was. So I get it. It's a movie a lot of people love. I totally understand. It's just, to me, how I mentioned that they really found a fun balance with the original. This one doesn't quite have that balance as much. It's more just a silly fun time, and that's cool. It just kind of depends what you're in the mood for. But it doesn't give me the slasher side of it that I kind of wish it had.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's a tough thing to pull off, but I do think that. Well, you know what? We should probably rank these at the end. We could get into that a little more, but
Yeah.
but I can see why so many people love it. I'll say that for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you would I would. It's unfair to compare it to the original, but I would try to put it in the league of other like you said, Sleepaway Camp 2. There's also elements of Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2, which also came out in 1987 that are similar.
There's definitely some of that in here.
So there's something in the air in that year. Things were changing in terms of horror. There was definitely comedy was a big element in the late 80s. And then adding these surreal touches in Prom Night 2. And these weird makeup special effects things that happen in this one carried over in those both movies. And yeah, I don't know, I just like that about it. I just like that's it captured that that time period. And it wasn't the early 80s of straight ahead slashers. It was kind of something else.
Yeah,
Maybe
no,
a little
you're right. I think
too
that's
silly.
a smart connection to make. Yeah,
Maybe a
I
little
wasn't
too silly, but I get it. It's I if they had a killer who maybe could take a little bit more seriously, then more of the threat would have been a little bit more.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know how to even explain it because like I liked Shocker, you know what I mean? Like I loved
Uh-huh.
Shocker,
Yeah.
and that's like a terrible Freddy knockoff. So I didn't,
I will
I don't
defend
know why.
Shocker. I will defend Shocker. I think that's pretty imaginative, that movie.
Oh, that's cool to hear because that's not one I hear a lot of
No,
love
I
for.
defend that one. I had a
But
really good
I'm
theater
just saying
experience in
for
that one. Yeah.
yeah, for that era, for those vibes, for that all those Friday the 13th, not sorry, Nightmare on Elm Street like cash-ins and stuff that were out there. Like this was definitely kind of belongs in that group. You're right,
Mhm.
and I didn't make that connection before, so it is kind of helping me put it in reframe, my opinion of it, and I do think it's it's a fun one for sure. Especially we've got some more movies to talk about here that that definitely I won't be as high on. So I'll not to spoil anything. So this is a good one, just to be clear.
Just to quickly, the director Deborah Brock, again another female writer director.
That's right.
Her other
Uh-huh.
movie was Rock and Roll High School Forever, which was not a good sequel, but to Rock and Roll High
Doesn't
School.
that have like one of the Corys in
Yeah,
it or something?
Corey Feldman's in that one.
Okay, I remember something like
That
that.
was
Yeah.
another movie she made for Roger Corman. She produced Plenty of Blew Up the Kid and Buffalo 66, very different movies. It's been said many times that Julia Cummins, and of course Heidi Kozak both appeared in Friday 13th movies, so there's lots of
Right.
there.
Right.
And we talked about all the names of horror people that were used as characters in this, which is fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, for me, a good time. Here is the trailer for our next movie. The trilogy concludes with Slumber Party Massacre 3.
What do you say? 4 days of R&R at the beach.
Hurry up!
What are you making?
Chocolate chip cookies. I saved some dough. It's on the counter.
Oh, you are a friend.
God, Janine, you are disgusting.
Excuse me if I don't beat the shit out of you. I think I'm having an orgasm.
No one entered at her house.
Oh, great. There goes the main course.
Yes. Yes.
Slumber Party Massacre, Part 3.
All right. 7 California co-eds are dressed to kill, and a murderer is well dressed to drill. He's an insomnomaniac looking for luscious bods to bore, and it looks like he'll find them at the Slumber Party Massacre. The Driller Killer is back in part 3 of the classic horror fest. This time, Jackie, Diane, and Marcia are 3 high school girls who love a good time. When they party, they bust out of their bikinis and break out the brews. but the driller killer's out for a thrill with his drill, and he's ready to kill. A lot of rhyming here. And there's a lot of Joe Bob quotes on this VHS.
Yeah, they knew they were really trying to sell you on that Joe
Yeah,
Bob
I just realized he's on the front and
and
back.
the
And
back.
this is New Horizons home video by this point, I should mention.
That's
But
right. Yep.
let's go ahead and read these Joe Bob pull quotes.
Yes.
Drive-In Academy Award nomination, 9 breasts, 10 dead bodies, spear gun to the leg, polo mallet to the head. Joe Bob says, check it out. And then on the back, you've got power drill through the upholstery, sledgehammer, foo, bleach in the eyes. Joe Bob says, check it out. So, so they definitely leaned heavily on Joe Bob's love for this one.
Oh, for sure.
And the spine even has a fun little, I guess, extra tagline of "It's driller time and this bit's for you," which of course sounds like a play on the old Miller time,
Right.
or "This bud's for you."
Yeah,
I don't
that's like
know.
Miller Time meets Budweiser.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I don't know. A lot going on. This is a very
Yeah.
busy VHS.
Yeah,
It's like,
very busy. We're gonna put everything on this box. Everything.
yeah, definitely not an inch of blank space on this one.
And
But
is another like women on the cover who are not in the movie again? Is that what's going on here? Yeah, it looks like
yeah, looks like it. Uh-huh.
it.
So, yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. And of course, this is, we're in the 90s now, so 1990. And as with part 2, I have no idea if I saw this one growing up. I just don't remember. And I don't even remember like anything about it necessarily, like the way I remember that, I have that giant pimple burned into my brain with part 2. Like there's really nothing about this one. So I was kind of like a blank slate going into this viewing. Didn't know what to expect. And I feel like this one, it's kind of maybe been forgotten a little bit. I feel like it was actually, no, it was paired with part 2 on Blu-ray, right? I believe so.
I have the so that's the 4K. The Blu-ray when that came out was 2 and 3.
Right, I remember now. Okay.
They had 1, 2, and 3 as a thing. One separating 2 and 3.
Right,
together.
right.
And then recently they did a 4K of 1 and 2, leaving out 3 altogether, which is
interesting. Okay.
I guess they couldn't acquire the rights for 3, or did they want to?
characters.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I do think I don't really think any of these movies make a great pairing, honestly. They all kind of are their own thing.
That's true.
But I guess it makes more sense to put 1 and 2 together because at least they have some characters in common. Yeah, that's interesting. But yeah, I remember like the only reason I even kind of remember this exists is because it's been paired, with 2. Otherwise, it's just not really talked about, or I don't feel like I ever see any, posts about it or anything. So, I don't know. It's kind of the forgotten one out of the trilogy, and I hate to say this, but I can kind of see why. There's like, I don't know. It seems a little bit like shoddily like pieced together compared to the original. I don't even think the second one's necessarily as like well constructed of a movie. But again, it still kind of works as like a fun fever dream, like we said. But this one, I feel like there's like no care put into it, unfortunately. Like there's just like a lot of kind of fun like continuity errors. And I'm not like one of those guys who notices bloopers. I'm not the kind of person who looks for them or wants to read about them or anything. They were just like there was a scene at the beginning, I made a note of it, where they're on the beach and that character Juliet stops to flirt with the guy on the beach, and her friends keep playing volleyball like while she's back there flirting. And when it shows them playing volleyball, she's there playing volleyball. And then it cuts back to her flirting. So it's like she's in, and then the next scene she's walking back to rejoin the game. You know, it's just so funny. It's like really like easy stuff to take care of. It's just not done in this one. So I don't know. That's right off the bat to kind of let you know what you're getting into. And I'm not a movie snob, you know, I'm telling you, you know me. But this one just feels like they didn't really care, and it's in there. They just kind of had a lot of boxes to check.
Sure.
It's I was trying to figure out if Maria Ford was wearing an Elvira wig, but I don't think that's what's going on there. But it definitely seems like a wig.
Yeah.
This is the only one that's like a whodunit in the trilogy, but like it's weird because it's like a whodunit where they reveal the killer like really early.
Yeah, that's like I was wondering.
I don't think like I can't really think of any examples like that, you know, in all the slasher movies I've seen over the years. And it's well, I don't know. It feels like a little bit more like a traditional slasher just because of that mystery element, but it's just structured very bizarrely, like I said. I do think that there's like some really like unintentionally funny things about this movie. Like the killer gets a lot of things smashed over his head, and I feel like that'd be like a really fun drinking game. Like I made a note of that. Like next time I watch this, it's gonna be like every time he gets hit over the head with something, take a shot. And I'm not gonna make it to the end probably, but there's a lot. Like that'll be a good time for sure.
Totally.
And you know, speaking of the killer, like I think they were trying to go for like something a little bit like darker here, like a Black Christmas kind of vibe, with like some of the things that are like suggested in that movie. You know, it was just kind of like there was like some weird stuff going on here that they put in there, but like I don't know, it just was weird to me. Like it's like I get what they were going for, like at least that's the way I saw it, but the whole thing just felt so weird and didn't make sense. The motivation didn't make sense. I don't get it. The creepy neighbor, who was kind of like an early red herring, I guess, like where I was trying to figure out like where that went too. Like he just kind of survived, right? And and then he calls the cops at one point. So the cops are gonna come out after like ignoring the girls calling. But that's so weird to me too, because that's not really that like kind of all the scenes with the police didn't really pay off either, because you even had that detective say, okay, well, I'll go by in like an hour. And when that happens in a movie, you know, he's like, I'll go by on my way home. What do you expect? Like you expect him to show up at some point. But like, no, like we never get that. We just get the cops show up after the neighbor calls, I guess. And we don't see that either really. So I don't know. The whole thing just kind of feels like they had to like make the runtime, and they were just kind of putting stuff in there. And I don't know. It like there's definitely like worse ways to like spend your night. Like I'm not saying like I hated it, because I can get something out of like a lot of like slashers, you know, from this era, and I do like the 90s vibes of it, with the fashions and stuff like that in particular. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I was just kind of expecting it to be more than it was. And I also, I think, you know, speaking of things that just didn't vibe, like we mentioned that there was like things like nudity that's just kind of, you know, forced on like directors in all these slasher movies for the most part. And that's, you know, something to expect, but like, you have to kind of be a little bit smarter about how you do it, because this had a scene that was like really like icky, for lack of a better term, where the killer like gets Maria Fort's character, and he's like kind of like I don't know, like molesting her, for lack of a better term. I'm not sure how far that goes, but the way they edited that, because that was something that I believe was added from what I understand.
Right.
The way they edited it, it makes it look like all her friends just stood around while that happened, because they're all right there. But originally it was supposed to be like she just gets killed really quick, while they're all trying to run away. So just like I said, like there's just no care put into this one as far as I could tell. It just felt like, I don't know. It felt like they just it's like Slumber Party Massacre in name only, honestly.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. Yep.
Yeah, and like even the fact that they just keep selling these movies as like the Driller Killer's back, the Driller Killer's back, and it's like someone completely different like every time. It's like I guess like Scream does that too or whatever, right? Because it's like Ghostface, but like is that like what this is? Is that who the Driller Killer is? It's just like whoever uses a drill.
Yeah,
So,
if you have a drill, you're the Driller Killer.
yeah, I don't know, man.
You're the
I
Russ
don't know.
Thorn.
What do you think of this one? I feel like I'm being too negative.
I mean, I don't know if I had any expectations of this movie when it came out on video. All right, first off, all right, it came out in September of 1990. They released it into limited theaters. So actually had a theatrical release. And
Wow.
it ended up making
I didn't know that.
it ended up making like $1.2 million at the box office. So
That's probably the budget.
The budget was $350,000. So
Oh, there you go.
which is tiny, still. So they made a profit, right, just for that.
That's a huge profit. Yeah.
But it somehow didn't make its way to New York until December of 1990. I don't know. It played other places, and then like we got it. But it was a weird thing. It was like it played on. I remember playing in the theater. I didn't go see it in the theater, but it played as a sort of like a double feature with The Rescuers Down Under.
No way.
It was like The Rescuers Down Under was playing in the daytime, and then at nighttime was Slumber Party Massacre 3.
Oh, that's awesome.
It was bizarre. Or they had like they shared showtimes. Like maybe you could see.
Well, now we know what they should pair it with on Blu-ray for
Yeah, exactly.
4K. 4K, yeah, when it makes the job.
It was really weird. I don't know why they paired those two together. Yeah, it was bizarre. Anyway, that's what I remember when it came out. Like, why is it playing in the same theater as Rescuers Down Under?
That's awesome.
But I knew not to like waste my time and go see it in the theater. Wait till it comes out on home video, because that's what happened with the second movie that came out on home video like just a few days after the theatrical. These were being made for.
Yeah, they feel like VHS movies, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, so it came out in 1990, and I watched it on video, and I kind of like one of those movies that I barely remembered what happened in it. It had no real connections to the first two movies, so what was the kind of point? A little bit.
Yeah.
Rewatching it, I don't think I rewatched this one the least for sure. I don't remember how many times I've seen it over the years, maybe like 2 times over the years. Rewatching it this time, I'm like, yeah, I know it's kind of like it's pretty generic. The killer's generic, not very memorable stuff that happens. The characters aren't. I complained a little bit about the characters in the first movie, but compared to the first movie, like those characters are much more memorable. The actors are much more memorable. No offense to the people in this film, but I just didn't quite. Yeah, I can't remember a lot of them, which is a problem. And then so I'm like, okay, I can't really connect with this movie as much. It feels long, which is weird because the first two movies feel
very breezy.
I was looking at the running time for the second one. The second one is actually like 77 minutes as well as the first movie.
Oh,
so
okay.
They're very similar run times, even though
there's no way that was 90 minutes.
The box is trying to trick you into thinking it was 90 minutes, so you don't feel like you're getting shortchanged or whatever. Because that was like a big deal back then. Usually, if a movie was like under 90 minutes, you feel like you were like they were trying to sell you something like something cheap or whatever. You had to be over. It had to be 90 or plus 90 plus.
That felt more theatrical for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
You see like a 90 on there, yeah.
So this one, I guess, had to have a 90-minute plus runtime because of that, because they were doing a theatrical. And it feels like they just, like you said, they just kind of threw something together. It was kind of slapped together. They added stuff in that shouldn't have been in. Yeah, so the editing was really bad. I mean, another movie, like the second movie where they had to reuse sets. I think the second one, they reused a set from The Nest. And then this one was another movie, like
the cockroach one.
yeah. So then apparently they had roaches on the second movie they had to deal with. Left over from The Nest. But this one, I think one of the sorority house massacre movies used this set.
Oh, that's funny. I could see that.
Very similar, like those kinds of movies. Like I can barely remember some of the sorority house massacre movie, like sequels. So kind of like that was what happening with the Roger Corman stuff at this time period. They were doing a lot of these series of movies that really had nothing to do with the original movies, and they're very throwaway. This one feels throwaway, but at the same time it could have been more fun, considering the first two movies were pretty original for what they were doing. They brought back the idea of having a female writer director, which is great, to director Sally Madison. I mean, she was mostly a producer. This is her only, I think, film as a director. She did like movies like Blood Fist, Silk 2, Overexposed, Mask of Red Death as a producer. The writer, Catherine Siren, she did a lot of Corman stuff like Cry in the Wild, Blood Fist 2. So both Blood Fist 2 movies were represented with the writer directors. White Wolves 2, Fire on the Amazon, which actually had Sandra Bullock in it. That was her Roger Corman years, which she won't talk about.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know. I like when I like the one thing that's really memorable in this movie is the girl who's like, when the guy's like, "You're not being nice," and she's like, "Fuck you," and throws herself through the window. I think that was hilarious. Like, I wish more of the movie was like that, but I wish the movie was had more memorable beats like that. But that was a good moment. It was okay. It's like,
no, it's different. I mean, it's like a slasher. I love slasher movies, but it's like so much of it is just this guy chasing these girls around the house, and they like can't get away from him. They can't get out, and it's like it's crazy how much they can drag that out.
Right? There's like people falling over each other. And a lot of these movies, like that's their that's the way to which is not that
exciting. But I mean, a lot of times you'll get like a killer kind of sneaking around, and maybe the rest of the group doesn't really realize what's going on, quite so early. Like you always have that scene where people start tripping over all these bodies that have been hidden, like at the end of like a slasher movie, like all of a sudden people are falling out of closets and stuff. Just like something made that kind of started with Halloween, I guess, but. With this one, it's like everyone knows what's happening. They've actually even tried to call the police and all this other stuff, and it's just like no one can do anything. It's so weird. I don't know. It's almost like this had like a supernatural element, but it didn't. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Maybe if it would have been best to combine both the 1 and 2 and make 3 like. It's like half a slasher, then it becomes like a full-on supernatural thing, like in the second half. I would have been.
Yeah, maybe that would make it a little bit easier to swallow some of the, like how pushing a table in front of the door was like enough to keep them in or whatever. But I don't know, whatever. It's I love dumb slashers. I love terrible sequels. Like it's fine. It's just, to me, it just wasn't a patch on the original, and it wasn't even as creative or memorable as the second one, if I'm honest.
If you're looking for like a cheap direct-to-video, well, I mean, in this case, a theatrical sequel, I mean, it's serviceable for that, but it's not something we're going to be talking about much more. So let's get into the remake. I'm not going to play the trailer because whatever, this trailer wasn't very good. I remember it came out in 2021. I remember watching it because, of course, Slumber Party Massacre. I'm
Hmm.
curious to watch this thing. I'm like, I was immediately not into this movie when I started watching it 2 years ago. Um, and then I watch it and it's like, okay, they're going through the motions with some of the slasher stuff. And I go like, okay, that's fine, okay, but I just knew something was off. I don't know if someone told me there was going to be a major twist or something, but maybe I knew, I don't know, but I was like, once the twist happened, I'm like, this is stupid. This is not. I think the movie thinks it's so. The movie really thinks it's clever with its
Yes,
twist
I agree with that.
to its fault. Like it really like tries to throw its weight around this twist, but it doesn't make any sense at all.
They're very proud of themselves, though. You can tell.
The twist doesn't make any sense. They're trying to make a feminist statement with this movie, but it's completely botched because it makes absolutely no sense.
Hmm.
It's just not well conceived. I just think there was an idea and that they had, okay, we're going to take Slumber Party Massacre into our modern times, and I understand the idea of that would, it's a movie that could be updated for modern times, like the slasher sensibilities of now. But I don't know, just try to just to have an idea and what you think is a clever twist is not enough. I think the movie really doesn't do a good job at painting its characters very well. I think you end up
Hmm.
hating some of the people in the movie. Like some really annoying people live. I think the lead character is not very engaging and makes some bad choices. I'm not really not behind at all. I just got really annoyed while watching it this time, and
Sure.
I don't ever want to see it again.
Hmm.
I don't think the slashing part of it is very good. Um, I'm gonna be the most hard on these movies with this one. I'm sorry, guys. It just does. There's a lot of off-screen deaths. So it reeks of cheapness to me. Where some of the Slumber Party Massacre movies, which were actually cheap, you see some of the deaths. Here, you don't. There's very few that you actually see happen. There's a lot of people talking about people running and falling over each other. There's a lot of that in this movie. People like do it like several times in this movie, and it drives me crazy. Um, it's just yeah, I could not get into this movie. Um, the setting is good, I guess. The cabin stuff, but it's nothing you haven't seen before with the setting. It doesn't really. There's another twist in the movie which you see coming a mile away towards the latter half of the movie, the latter part of the
Hmm.
movie. I don't know. I really just didn't like this movie at all. I have nothing positive to say, so I'll leave it to you. Hopefully, you'll find something to say.
I'll try. I'll try. This was my first time seeing this. I do remember it came out. I think it was like around COVID time.
Yeah,
You said 21,
2021. Yeah,
right? Yeah. I remember it came out. Was it made for Sci-Fi Channel? Is that
so it
right?
was like a sci-fi channel, but I think Shout Factory made the movie. Of course, Shout
Oh,
Factory
okay.
released these on Blu-ray, and
Right.
they had, I guess, the rights to make a sequel because of
Okay.
that, and they made the sequel with
I
Sci-Fi.
Okay. I do remember, I mean, I remember it coming out. I remember a lot of posts about people watching it. But for whatever reason, I just wasn't interested. I didn't think it looked like it was going to be for me. And watching it now, I think I was probably right. Um, it's also like you mentioned the setting, and I'm like, I don't think they know what a slumber party is because I don't think this one has a slumber party in it.
there's
Interesting.
jokes that there's jokes that allude to slumber parties, like what people would do at a slumber party, but it's
Yeah,
the
like a
whole
pillow
point.
fight and all
Yeah,
that.
but then the movie's main directive is to turn everything on its head to be clever. Like have the
Yeah,
guys do the slumber, like do the pillow fight. Like because
right.
that's like the
Look,
because women have done that in movies. Now why can't
no,
the guys do it? But
exactly.
then it ends up becoming like, is this Zoolander? Like, is this a joke, or is this like
I
what
can,
they're trying to like make a statement?
yeah, and there's like male nudity and stuff like that. Like I think it's like very obvious what they were trying to do, and it's okay. Like I appreciate the effort, I guess, but it's just not like that doesn't make a good movie, Like you have to
Yeah.
have a good movie first and foremost, then you can be as clever and subversive as you want to be. But if the movie sucks, like you're not, like it does, the point's like lost, it's wasted. So,
Hmm.
and I mean, what is the point anyways? Just that like you're gonna do the opposite of what traditional slashers in the '80s did? I don't know.
Yeah,
Like
that's you're just thumbing
that's it. Like that's all
you're
it has
thumbing
to.
your nose at like, yeah, what came before, what led you to this
Right.
point in horror and slasher movies. Like, well, that's not something I want to watch and carry,
No, like then there's probably like an audience for that, but it's not, me or you. So it's just I don't know. Like again, like that's not what a slumber party is either. Like going to the woods with your friends, like you don't like you just don't call that a slumber party. I'm sorry, like that's a Friday the 13th movie
Right, right, exactly. That's Cabin
that
in the
they're like.
Woods, yeah. Which
Yeah,
they
even like the one of the twists you kind of alluded to with like someone it's like a mother character or whatever, like it's like that's Friday the 13th also. Like I'm
yeah.
not sure like they remade the movie they were trying to remake.
I'm
So
like, what?
I just was catching all these things like wait a second. I don't know. It's just
It's just, yeah,
there's a
symptomatic
reason why
of
I
it.
don't feel obligated to watch half the remakes and stuff that come out now,
Right.
and this was a really good reminder,
Yeah,
why.
it's just bad writing, overwriting, like just having clever ideas or what you think is clever again. Doesn't
Yes.
make for a movie. I'm sorry, guys. You can't start
No,
there. You have to start on a more pure level, even if it's like a writing assignment, right? You have to like
mhm.
understand what these movies are first off, and then go from there. You don't just like, okay, well, cabin, like woods, get
Yeah,
isolated characters and like somehow, and then that's where we'll take it. Like, and then we'll throw in these twists to surprise people and be subversive. But they're not
right.
subversive. They make the characters seem pretty dumb, especially when you're trying to entrap people. It doesn't make
Yeah,
and not have a good plan. Seem makes you just seem dumb.
the plan
And
is
then
just like
like a plan
we're
where,
hiding
yeah,
weapons. Yeah,
it's trying, and again saying it filtered through the feminist lens, like trying to say this is what this is our statement. Like it does more harm with that statement. It just makes it makes it seem like, well, they're not making smart choices, then what's the point of this? Right? It's like it
no,
just
you're right, and I could be wrong, but like I do feel like I heard some positive things about it back then. Surprisingly, like I feel like people are like, oh, it was okay, or like I kind of saw what they were doing or whatever. But like I don't know. I watching it, I just didn't get it. I was really surprised, honestly, and I hate to just beat a dead horse with this point or whatever, but like step one, like have a slumber party in your movie.
right. If your
Like
movie's called that, yes, that's what you
yeah,
should at least
like
do
they
that. Right?
even like the whole setup. I guess. Well, so I guess it does that thing that they did with the Friday the 13th remake. Speaking of, we keep going back to Friday the 13th now, but how they kind of like crammed in like the whole first movie and like the opening credits or whatever. If I'm remembering right, I think I've only seen
Yeah,
that
no,
one.
they did the first four movies, I feel like, in the opening credits,
I think you're
actually.
right. Yeah, it's like the first.
Which
Exactly.
is
Yeah.
like,
'Cause then they have that other group of people that he kills. I saw that in theaters actually, and I haven't seen
yeah.
it since. But so yeah, like I don't know, like I feel like they did that whole thing where they kind of did Slumber Party Massacre, or they thought they did. I mean, again, it's not a slumber party, but whatever. I hate to just keep going back to that, but like it's just not. And then they like did this whole like modern clever thing that they'd set up or whatever, but it's just like what did you give the fans of the originals, like like what where is, and I'm not saying a movie should be like all fan service, and this did have like a few nods in there. I feel like probably I remember a guitar and stuff like that, but
Right.
I just like, where's like the love? Like there's just, and that's
Yeah.
something that's missing from like a lot of the remakes, you know. I don't know. I didn't get it. I didn't get it at
And
all.
the
What they were,
performance of the killer, like I don't understand what they were like, what he was doing with the neck
yeah, that's
thing. I'm like,
another thing.
it was
Yeah.
really strange. I was so just confused by it. I'm like, this is supposed to be like him isn't doing the weird thing with his neck like all the time. Like, is that supposed to be scary or funny? It's
Right.
like I don't
'Cause
know. The movie was written like it was a comedy sometimes, but
it
never
was.
like
Yeah.
funny. So I was
Yeah.
confused.
No, exactly. I don't know. It's just I know I feel like I'm too hard on like modern movies a lot of times, but I honestly just think this was like a total misfire, and it's gonna be like another like one-time watch
Oh yeah,
probably
I'm
for
good after these
yeah.
viewings, these two viewings. So
Well,
that
you
was
had to do your homework for the podcast, so I appreciate that you went back. You know, I think I actually reminded you that this exists because I was like, "Oh, I watched the remake," and
I
you were
totally
like, "Oh
forgot it
yeah."
existed because I did not like it that
You're
much.
like, "Oh yeah, there was a remake."
Oh no, because it's like yeah, maybe
Yeah.
like you said, it's because it's not a slumber party. Why would I associate it with the
It's just it's
series?
not like the I think like I don't know, like we can get into like what defines like a slumber party, but when you think about like having a sleepover, you know, which is what we called it as kids, like
Yeah,
it just like that's not what it is,
yeah.
you know. It's not getting having your car break down in the middle of nowhere and like going to like a remote cabin for the night or whatever. Sorry, that's not the
It's
criteria.
not, and we know we have kids. We know what it's like. We actually just organized a sleepover for this week coming up later in this week
No
when we're
way.
back from our little trip. Our kids are actually going to having a slumber party at their friend's house. Hopefully not
Nice.
a massacre. Hopefully there won't be a drill
I know.
guitar. Hopefully
Just
not.
show them the movies first, and they'll be well behaved, man.
Yeah.
They'll be nah.
Hopefully not extended scenes of somebody throwing up like in this remake,
Oh
which is
yeah,
really,
that was
really annoying.
unnecessary.
And also, like the saddest pizza ever committed on film is in this remake. I don't know what that
Oh God,
was. It was really, really fucking sad, and
I,
I
I
don't
can't
want
even remember. That's so bad.
our
But
kids to eat ever like these little like beige little square things are supposed to be pizza.
oh yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. That's right.
it looked
No,
really
the
uncomfortable, like they were eating some sort of like cardboard. I don't know. It was very strange.
yeah, yeah. That's
Uh,
not pizza. Whatever it was. I don't know. The whole vomiting thing you just reminded me, like, if you're gonna have, I guess, semi spoiler alert for this movie, nobody listening to this probably cares about, but if you're gonna like have a character get poisoned, like that's part of what's happening there, like they should probably not like just be fine, you know? Like it should be probably worse than just throwing
and
up a
also,
little
especially if
like
that character is horrible and deserved it, but you know.
y- y- that's
My
another
wife is
point
like,
altogether.
like she's like, I can't. Oh, fine, that character's gonna die,
I don't think there was a likable
and they
character
didn't,
in this one. Yeah. I
and they
can't think
didn't.
of anyone. Yeah.
So
I
annoying.
don't know. Whatever. Hey, we covered it.
We
We
did
did
it.
our part.
Let's do the ranking. Where do you stay? I can go, or you want to go?
Well, mine's boring. I think I'm in order. I think I'm a one, two, three
One,
remake.
two, three remake. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do. All right, I'm gonna mix it up. Two, one, three, and then like dot remake.
No, that's that. I think that I can see most people's lists being either one or two and one. And I can respect that, but I don't. I'd be shocked if anyone prefers three,
Yeah,
and even more shocked, like something beyond shocked, if someone prefers the remake. But you know,
I didn't
there's
do my
people out
homework.
there.
I didn't do my homework. I didn't do my work correctly and ask people for their list. But I'll put something out on Instagram, like
Oh,
which
right, right.
or on the socials. Like pick your. I'll do a poll. Which is your favorite of the three? And then we'll see what the results are. I've been doing a lot of Instagram stories polls
That's
every
right.
day,
Uh-huh.
and getting a lot of like people contributing to them, and they're fun to do. Doing a lot of like collections
Awesome.
on there. That's been really fun to do because it's like invigorating kind of my love for movies, obviously, but also like digging through things in my collection that I haven't seen in a while, which is cool. I'm like, oh, I
Very
have
cool.
this. I didn't know I have this. I have that. So it's kind of fun. It's a good way to like get the juices flowing with that stuff. So.
Oh man, I'm going to be doing a lot of that as we get ready to move.
Oh, that's right.
And
yes, you gotta go through.
I need to really like stop myself from just like being like, enthralled in my collection and just really like pack stuff up, because I have a feeling I'm going to be sitting there going like, oh man, this is sweet. I forgot about this. Or like, oh, I haven't watched this one for a while. And like next thing you know, it's like I packed like one box. Yeah, I really need to catch myself. I know what you mean, and that's fun to do. And I'm going to be going through my garage too. God knows what's in there. So
that's fun.
Yeah,
Don't throw
but
everything
it's
away.
kind of good. That's a beautiful thing about physical media, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right, for sure.
It's always there. Yeah.
Well, thank you guys. This was fun. We're not ending with a pillow fight or anything proper, but we had fun. We'll definitely have some pizza and beer soon. Proper pizza and beer.
Yes.
All right. So
Absolutely.
where can people find you on the internet?
Gosh, for now, I still just have my boring personal accounts. You can probably find me through Meep. I did have to change my last name, unfortunately, because of the line of work I'm in with social work. There's a lot of crazy people out there, so
oh boy, yeah,
I had to make it a little bit harder for people to find me, even though it's still probably super easy. But yeah, you could find me. There's not a lot of Aras in Meep's friend list either, I'm sure. So I'm there, and please add me. I love connecting with all the listeners, and I've become really good friends with a bunch of them. So the more
really
the better.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for reaching out and talking movies. It's always so fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So yeah, find us on Instagram, Cinema to Meep. Retro Movie Love also has a page on Instagram. I post like links to episodes on there, and like I've been putting on some old Patreons on there once in a while. What else? Facebook, you look for me on there, and the usual spots. I just urge people to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and that's cool. I appreciate that.
If you guys want to see Meep wearing his Slumber Party nightie, I highly recommend checking us out on YouTube. Just play along. You're going to get
that's right.
Doing this video, which we didn't used to do, is a lot of fun. So I do hope some people take the time to check it out. It's kind of cool to see Meep's collection right behind him too. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I just like the idea of it. I also like putting trailers so you can actually see the trailers.
Which is awesome.
And video covers and all that stuff when I add at the end. So stay for the credits and you can see all that stuff. But all right, guys, thank you so much for everything. We appreciate it. We'll talk soon, and I'm sure we're gonna give you some time to move before we do another episode.
Yeah, I might need a little time, but hopefully you keep the podcast going.
Well, we'll definitely keep going, and we'll have some new episodes for you, and we'll have you back on as soon as you're settled in, and we can talk more movies. It'll be great.
Thanks, buddy. I'm looking forward to it.
All right, guys. Hopefully, wherever you are, you're out of your nighties. I don't know, whatever you're doing, enjoy it, and we'll talk soon. We'll be back. We'll be back next month. All right. Take care, guys. Ciao for now.
I love the song. I wanna be your Tokyo convertible. I wanna have fun with you. I just love going through the motions. I just love going through the motions. I wanna be your Tokyo convertible. I wanna have fun with you. I just love going with the motion. I just love going with the motion. I wanna be in a lovelace. I wanna be in a lovelace.
Never satisfied, and I know where my boundaries lie. Most of the